Go.
100 years ago this year, the 19th Amendment was passed. Although this legislation gave women the right to vote, there has still been exclusion according to changemakers of the centennial from the National Organization for Women 2020. This is the focus of feminism today, and the history of feminism has undergone intense changes to be here. My role, like many, has been characterized by my duties and rights in this movement. Conclusions are based through such, as well as research within academic platforms. First, I will describe first-wave feminism in the U.S. Second, I will discuss second-wave feminism in the U.S. And finally, I will explain third-wave feminism in the U.S. The first wave of feminism occurred in the late 19th century and had a focus on giving women social liberation and voting rights. This consisted of changing long-held limitations on their social capacity. According to David Shee, former president of Furman University, in his 11th edition's brief second volume of America, A Narrative History, 2019, between 1880 and 1910, the number of employed women tripled, 2.6 million to 7.8 million. Further, Noelle McAfee, professor of philosophy at Emory University from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, in her entry Feminist Philosophy 2018, contends that first-wave feminism has been noted for its efforts in trying to achieve basic rights. The suffrage movement has developed much to arrive at the legislation we know today. Multiple political groups formed with this movement in mind. As further illustrated by David Shee, in 1890, the National Women's Suffrage Association, as funded by Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and the American Women's Suffrage Association, founded by Julia Ward Howe and Lucy Stone, combined to create the National American Women's Suffrage Association. Before the 19th Amendment, various states expressed concern for women's voting rights. As David Shee marks, these were such as Wyoming in 1890, Utah, Colorado, and Idaho between 1890 and 1896, and California, Washington, Arizona, Kansas, and Oregon in 1912. After reviewing major initial developments, we can now look at second-wave concerns. The second wave of feminism was a revival of the role equality had in feminism. Women wanted to showcase the movement for what it was for, as provided by Jennifer Marchbank, professor at Simon Fraser University, and Gail Leatherby, professor at the University of Plymouth, in Introduction to Gender Social Science Perspectives, 2007, women turned to history to legitimize their efforts. They did this so as to further advocate for change within everything from education for girls to voting rights for women. McAfee furthers that women went beyond rights to equality in all parts of life. Success and failure were seen here. David Shee marks a major success in the passage of Title IX, which banned discrimination of sex in educational settings. In 1973, a year later, the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court case determined that abortions were allowed. This was another success. Failure, however, was seen in 1892 with the Equal Rights Amendment being lost. This would have allowed equal rights federally. Upon seeing to second wave concerns, we can now move on to the third wave. The third wave has areas of concern that are much broader than ever before. According to the National Organization for Women, or NOW, their concerns for 2020 are health protections, sex protections, sexual harassment, violence against women, and much more. They are trying to secure voting rights for Native, Black, Latinx, Asian, disabled, young, incarcerated, impoverished, and LGBTQ voters. Further, NOW has chapters all across the U.S. in national, state, and local levels. Action even when subtle is being seen. The NOW's Political Action Committee, or PAC, has made various endorsements to the 2020 election. Additionally, various platforms with opportunities to create change are within this organization alone. These are such as trying to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. In conclusion, first, I discussed first-wave feminism in the U.S. Second, I explained second-wave feminism in the U.S. And finally, I described third-wave feminism in the U.S. As you can see, the history of feminism has undergone intense changes the 19th Amendment was not as inclusive as it should have been, but it was a basis for a very impactful movement.